This is new to me, and therefore I'm not qualified to answer that question, because we know that because of our knowledge of this, we should be a little bit more human and humane to all our environment. Because the planet is too small for us to keep messing about and dodging the real question and dodging the lie all the time. And I've had people go, oh, look at what you've done to that data, you horrible man. I think a lot of people are in denial. Chopping down the Amazon for cattle is damaging for all animals, all birds, all wildlife. As human beings, we haven't done very well. The food chain has been marred by conglomerate businesses and mass production. I think some people, because there's so many human beings on this planet, some people will not fare well by just eating vegetables. And we know for a fact that some people will not fare well. I don't want to be a hypocrite. We live in a very difficult world.
Topic's the RSPCA. Give you the statements, you tell me what you think. Obviously it's all animal related.
Okay.
So the very first one is about chickens and turkeys.
Okay.
So, due to large groups of them being kept in confined spaces, young chickens and turkeys, they quite often have their beaks trimmed to reduce them from harming one another. Now, the process, it does actually have the potential to cause significant pain and suffering, but although the RSPCA will actually openly admit that they don't like that process and they claim they want to phase it out, they do still permit it as long as it's performed by a trained professional. Do you think that process can ever be justified?
No.
No? How come?
Because I don't think it will be done by a professional.
No? And why would it be important?
Because if the RSPCA are asking it to be done by a professional, and probably there's very few professionals available to do that, and so many poultries, therefore I cannot believe that a professional will be able to do it to swathes and swathes and swathes chickens and turkeys. I just can't believe that.
No, okay. I don't think you're wrong. Okay, second one is baby chicks. Now, because they can't lay eggs on their first day of life, non-RSPCA, most male chicks, they're obviously separated male, female. Most male chicks are put onto a conveyor belt and dropped into a big macerator. It's a bit like a blender. Now, for the RSPCA, although maceration is permitted in some cases, they actually prefer the chicks to be gassed using argon. This takes no longer than 6 minutes for the chicks to suffocate to death. Obviously, occasionally, sometimes less. Do you think that's actually a better method?
I couldn't tell you because I don't know which is best. Although you've told me this statement, this is new to me.
Of course.
And therefore, I wouldn't know from basically a layman's point of view.
I agree.
Both processes, and therefore I'm not qualified to answer that question.
No, I agree with that. What would you think sounds like the better process? Basically, it's basically, I've seen it, so it is essentially just either suffocating to death or just literally, basically it's like a blender, it's a macerator, it's called. One's instant but kind of quite gruesome. The other one's not gruesome but not instant.
So therefore I wouldn't know.
Wouldn't know?
Unless I saw it myself and I saw the processes, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't be able to give you a definitive opinion. Okay, both of them sound pretty grim.
Third one, there's 5 in total. So the third one is about fish. So there are now multiple non-RSPCA methods for killing fish, such as using carbon dioxide, just suffocating them in the air, or on ice, or bleeding them, just cutting them and they just die that way. It's now scientific consensus that fish can suffer and feel pain, so the RSPCA now asks that fish be slaughtered using a percussive stunning method, followed by bleeding. Now, percussive stunning is basically getting a blunt instrument. It's smashing them over the head with a heavy object. It basically causes the brain to collide against the skull. Occasionally, that does need to be done twice. to ensure that the fish, sorry, it needs to be done twice just to ensure that fish is being killed, because it's not always successful on that first hit. Of those different methods, though, do you think that's the RSPCA way is probably what sounds like the better way of doing it?
Well, I'm not really too sure those two methods. I mean, fishermen, which I know, they put them into a holdall which is in the water, so the fish are still fresh.
Yep.
Yeah, and then that can be frozen. Yeah. I'm not too sure about those processes.
No, fair enough.
Yeah.
This is obviously industrial side of more than anything else.
It's, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, either way, it doesn't sound great. Yeah.
No.
And it doesn't sound like fresh fish, really. I don't know. Really. I don't know.
Fair enough. Okay. Fourth one. Male dairy calves.
Right.
Because they're useless to the industry, the two most non-RSPCA, the two most humane ways of disposing of unwanted calves is to either hit them over the head with a blunt instrument, quite often a spade,
Right.
or bolt gun them, normally on their first day of life. Now, the RSPCA, because the calves kind of obviously don't want it happening and they're moving around, that sort of thing, the RSPCA now prefer farmers to use electrical stunning.
Okay.
Basically, silence, It reduces the ineffectiveness down from 14% down to roughly 10%.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
It means there's roughly 9,500 calves each month in the UK, so about 950 of them aren't killed outright.
Right. Okay. Yeah. But it's better.
Well, it's
reduced it by 4%.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
So do you think that is a better process?
Well, probably, yeah.
Yeah. Final one.
Yeah.
Pigs.
Okay.
Now, before I say the statement, do you know, and if you don't know, maybe have a guess, how do you think they would dispose of pigs in the UK?
Well, how do they kill them?
Yeah. In the majority of cases, there are exceptions, but in the majority. Pardon?
Electric shock?
Electric shock, okay. So the RSPCA approved way of killing pigs in the UK, and this is for 88% of the pigs in the UK now, okay, is to send them into a CO2 gas chamber. This is CO2, it's an aversive gas. Essentially, it forms an acid on their eyes and in their lungs, essentially burning them from the inside out. It's obviously 100,000 times worse, but if you think when you have a can of pop and it goes up your nose, it's like 1,000 times worse than that sensation. That process, it takes no longer than 3 minutes for the pigs to die that way, often as low as 30 seconds. Do you think that is acceptable?
30 seconds.
Well, that's the minimum.
Yeah, that's the minimum. And 3 minutes maximum.
Yeah.
So
bearing in mind adrenaline pumping around and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so on average the same 1.5 minutes.
Probably, thereabouts.
That's a lot of time. What's the other alternative then?
Well, that's the question. That's almost the question.
You did say 80% or
88%.
So what about the other 12? Is that electrocution?
So they have tried electrical shock, but the catch, this is why 88% are done this way. So they do sometimes try a bolt gun, but the problem is it depends on how lucky they get, because pigs have got big heads. I don't actually need that anymore, just put it like that. So, and there's a lot of bone, they've got a big skull. So it's actually difficult to actually get exact right space for the bolt gun, but they do that occasionally. I mean, in fact, that's probably the majority of the other ways of doing it. They sometimes just slice their throat, but again, it's got to be deep, so they've got big throats. So, it's the gas is the way that it's the most cost-effective way of it happening.
Well, it will be all cost-effective things. But I think with humanity goes, it's the best, whichever's the best, quickest way, the less painful way for anything to die, is always the best way.
And might sound silly, but why is that important?
Well, the food chain, which is what we're really talking about, can be done in several different ways. And as human beings, we should do it in the most efficient and less painful way, because we know that if you call a fish in a pond, it comes to you if it knows you. And it's the same as any animal, the same as my dog. It does know, it's got a lot more awareness than most human beings take it for granted.
Exactly,
And therefore, because of our knowledge of this now, in today's world, we should be a little bit more human and humane to all our environment. And that's why I think if it takes a little bit longer, then, costs are costs at the end of the day. We've got to look at reason behind most of our movements, including climate change, throughout this world, because the planet is too small for us to keep messing about and dodging the real question and dodging the lie all the time.
I agree. So these are obviously, they're all food animals. Have you actually yourself considered what happens to the animal to get it onto your plate in the past?
I have.
You
have done it.
Yeah?
You've
actually killed the animals?
Plucked it and everything else. Pillaged it a lot.
Is this obviously you're talking like small, like poultry, but do you think you'd go as far as doing like things like cows? Could you do bigger animals, do you think, or would that be like, oh no, I can cope with a bird because it's...
I could do any animals I feel is going to either suffer, immediately, without a doubt. It'd be upsetting. But if there was a horse or anything which needed and was in pain, I would try my best to do it as quick as possible.
I see. So it's interesting. The one thing I do hear relatively, not common, but frequently, it's like, well, if an animal's suffering, dogs, horses, no matter what the animal is, you put it out of its misery. If you can do, you euthanize it, just because it's a nice way of doing it.
If you're going to eat it.
Well, not people seem you've not, but a lot of people have a completely different view with that.
I've like done a duck, plucked it and all this, and I've had people go, "Oh, look at what you've done to that duck, you horrible man!" And then I've cooked a tight green duck dinner, and the same people who've said that have slid their plate up back to me and said, "Oh, you can cook that again, Andy." So there's a hypocritical understanding. These are mature individuals. Some of them are, reasonable jobs, teachers or something. However, I think a lot of people are in denial. I don't think a complete meat-eat-free zone is always beneficial for people. I know in all parts of the world they can eat insects, all sorts of things, and I don't think we really know the benefits of even eating insects. I think there's good protein in there. Because of my lack of understanding, therefore I'm more than open to other people's understanding in order for me to expand my understanding. Okay? But I'm not going to sort of start denying and thinking, well, if you can put an animal out quickly and eat it and even use its fur and all of it, for the benefit of maybe other animals or other parts of the food system, bearing in mind there's a huge amount of us on this planet, probably over 8 billion now.
Nearly 9, but not quite.
You're not going to try and change it completely. Could be disastrous, not just for the animal, but for humans and the whole system. We've now gone into that Pandora's box of the unknown unknowns, which is difficult.
Do you think that we need to eat animals in order to thrive? Not survive, but thrive.
I don't think we need to eat animals. I think that sometimes certain foods like fish and certain poultry isn't bad for us. I think it's okay. Gorging on all sorts of animals is different, but there is a balance in every diet.
Yep.
And if you have too much alcohol, you become an alcoholic. If you have too much chocolate, it's not good for you. If you have too much milk, it's not good for you. It's everything is a balance in all aspects of life, not just eating, but a lot of things. And we quite often lose the focus of what we should be looking at as human beings and how we should be delivering not only ourselves to other human beings, but ourselves to the trees and everything.
Yeah.
Even trees and plants live. So chopping down the Amazon for cattle is damaging for all animals, all birds, all wildlife.
It's crazy, isn't
so
it?
therefore, we build a road. We don't look at the ecosystem in its environment properly.
Yeah.
So the balance of this planet, as human beings, we haven't done very well.
Do you know?
We are learning.
Do you know? Because you seem to know a little bit more about this, and certainly a lot of people. But do you know what kind of numbers we're looking at with regard to how many animals we're consuming every year?
Millions.
Higher than millions.
Yeah, billions. Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So you mentioned earlier about there being about 8 billion humans, roughly.
Yeah.
Land animals, and this is excluding fish, land animals, we are putting down almost 90 billion land animals every single year. So we're putting down over 10 times more land animals to consume each year than what there are humans. If you consider that all those animals also need to eat before they're put down, that's a huge waste of resources. So with regard to chopping down the Amazon or all those sort of stuff, it's literally one of the most devastating things we can do as a species is to continue that route.
Yeah.
So you kind of mentioned a minute ago, slightly backtracking, about animals can feel, they know, even fish will come up to you, that sort of thing. Obviously they are sentient, they have this subjective experience, obviously not the same as us.
Yeah.
It's not humane to make them to torture them, to suffer them, and it sounded like would you to me those statements sound like animal abuse to me. So do you think they sound like animal abuse to you? Like the idea of a pig in a gas chamber? I've seen it. I've actually seen.
I don't eat veal because of the way they kill a veal.
Yeah.
And I've always felt that that's inhumane.
Yeah.
However, the veal itself, the young deer, it's never eaten it, and there are certain protocols within my own ethos which I have avoided eating certain foods due to the fact of their own persona, like a horse. So some people will say, well, you're hypocritical because a fish does, and I have said, will hear you. And therefore they've probably got a point. However,
pigs, for example, are I think the third most intelligent animal on the planet. They're actually higher than dogs in intelligence. They can play video games. You can teach them to do tricks. They're super intelligent. And when they're going into a slaughterhouse, for example, they don't want to go in. They can smell it, they can see it, they can feel it.
It's the same as all dogs and animals going to a vet. They know. It is strange because we could talk about euthanasia here as well, about humans, and if you know a relative is dying and they're in a lot of pain, but you're not allowed to break the law, the thing is the food chain has been marred by conglomerate businesses and mass production, and that mass production has got such a great grip on the way we live, certainly in certain parts of the world, that to change it would be a humongous change
Yeah.
for
Well, bear in
humanity.
mind the advertising we see. It's happy hens, happy cows. You know, and the cows are all living their life of luxury in the fields and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
We don't get told about what's behind the scenes in these horrible conditions that they're being kept in.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm getting at though is that if you are against abuse of animals, and every single time we buy an animal in a supermarket, for example, we are basically buying an animal that has gone through these horrendous conditions, then that makes us quite hypocritical.
It does. That's what I was saying to you. I know a lot of people who think I'm hypocritical. It's okay me saying I'll kill a chicken, pluck it, gill it, and then cook it. Yeah.
So
killing an animal and taking its fur and eating it as well, and maybe like the Indians did in the native Indians in America, that they use an awful lot of indigenous populations which are still, their own soul and their own life, and they will use everything on a particular animal that they eat.
Yep.
And therefore, because of the Western way, do I turn around and say, well, they're not allowed to do that as well?
So I guess
it's difficult.
Well, my question to you then is, if you acknowledge that these animals are being abused essentially before they're put down, if you agree that we don't need to do it in order to survive, why do you do it?
I do eat the fish and I do eat chicken. I don't eat lots of it, but I've always had a balance, which I try and have a balanced diet. And like I said, if you have too much of anything, like alcohol, you become an alcoholic. Too much chocolate.
But the difference with those, and you're not wrong, but the big difference between having alcohol and having a bar of chocolate is that when you're buying the animal, you're essentially saying, to replace what I've just bought, go and find another animal that's currently alive, torture them, make them suffer, put them down, kill them, and replace the one I'm just buying, please.
Well, I think some people, because there's so many human beings on this planet, some people will not fare well by just eating vegetables and fruit.
There'll be an adjustment.
There would be, but we'll know, and we'll know for a fact that some people will not fare well.
We don't, actually. So some people struggle. Some people will struggle 100%. Some people do struggle more than others. They have dietary issues and things like this. And there is a certain it's a very tiny percentage. There is a percentage of people that do have health issues where eliminating animal products from their diet is hard. It's not impossible, but it's just hard.
It's like people who have nut allergies.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're not allowed anything to do with nuts.
Yeah.
Now, nuts is a very good balance of protein and so forth.
But we're not talking about that's such a small. I'm talking about the majority of people. I'm talking about you, for example. I don't think you don't come across as one of these people that would suddenly, if you stopped eating meat, you would suddenly be like in hospital because you've got some deficiency. You don't come across as that sort of person.
My brother was a vegan for about 15 years, and he started eating fish again because of the natural oils you can get, omega-3. So, although I've listened to people which have been vegans for a long time, there's another friend of mine which has been vegan for a long time, and vegetarian. Several people I've known vegetarian, and a number of them have gone back to certain dietary foods which are what they were not eating, say 10 years ago. Not a lot, and they've kept it to a minimum.
Can I ask what
I am not somebody who says you were hypocritical for 15 years then, and now, but it's like an ex-smoker who then starts smoking, and then they're like having to go smokers because they stop smoking. It's that balance of life. It's hard enough life.
So you mentioned the word vegan. What do you understand by the word vegan?
Well, because I've never been a vegan. Yeah, I can only listen to other vegans. So they say, well, they won't eat eat dairy products. Yeah, so things like making milk and things like that. So I'm not 100% because I've not been a vegan. I've listened to what they've said. So, but these people have studied it, and it's like anybody who's studying anything or really taken on board their stance in their food chain, that unless you're actually doing it yourself and being involved, you can only listen and take on board roughly what they're saying. You're not actually practicing it. And so because I've never practiced it, I can't turn around to you and say this for sure, that for sure. No. I think that if I decided to go vegan or vegetarian, I think I'll lead probably a reasonable, healthy life. However, I know that if I'm offered some food when I go abroad and somebody offers me, say, some chicken, and I know they haven't got a lot of food, and this is what they've offered me, it would be very insulting and upsetting to them if I refused it.
But just on that specific point, I want to talk about what you just said in total, but just on that specific point, would you refuse it if it was human meat?
To be quite honest with you, I was extremely hungry and I lived on I was on a mountain and there was nothing else.
Well, that's, I mean,
I'm not too sure.
I think that would be agreeable. I think that would be agreeable.
I'm really not too sure. I mean, this is the trouble. You could go, you could go down this.
Well, this is hence the thought-provoking.
Yeah, it is. We can go down and down and down and down and narrow it all down. I don't want to be a hypocrite. I will eat meat. My whole family's never eaten a lot of meat. We very rarely we might have had a roast dinner once a month. We've never been big meat eaters. However, I do enjoy some fish, and I do enjoy some chicken, and I do enjoy some lamb.
So
I'm not saying that people who do enjoy meat, there could be. It's like I do enjoy milk.
Yeah.
You know, I do drink quite a bit of, and I have done all my life.
So the cost. So got too many different points to try and tell you. So first one, with the reason I said about the vegan bit. So vegan, a lot of people believe being vegan is I don't eat animal products, I don't have milk, honey, eggs, and wear leather and stuff like that. But it's not. That's part of it. But being vegan is, and a lot of people mistake what it is being vegan. So people will say that they are when they're not, because they're not eating these products. But being vegan is actually taking a stance and saying, I don't think anyone has the right to torture these pigs, because they pull out their teeth, chop off their tails, they cut off their bollocks, basically, with no anaesthetic.
What are you interviewing about? What are you interviewing about?
It's about.
You can come back in a couple of minutes if you want. I'll be about 2-3 minutes and I'll be done. Yeah. So it's basically so they cut off their testicles on the males without any anaesthetic because they don't like taste the testosterone.
What's your name, sir?
Mark. Yours is?
Andrew.
Can I give you some resources? Would you look some up just to get a little bit more information?
I will do.
Yeah. And all I'm saying to you really is, I did it for a long time. I was a big meat eater. I was a big dairy consumer. Dairy is horrendous to me. I haven't really touched it at all. But people aren't aware of what they're eating. This QR code, you've got some links here. They're all on this QR code, but also on this QR code. The second one down is something called The Greatest Speech You'll Ever Hear by a guy called Gary Yourofsky. It's just a university lecture. It's about 45 minutes to an hour long. Please watch it. It's just he just drops some truth bombs. That's all it is, just truth bombs, bang, bang, bang. And you kind of go, don't know, whatever. Or you go, oh, wow. The other one on there is called Land of Hope and Glory. It's the behind the scenes of the UK animal agricultural industry. Really important to know what you're paying for. You said some of the things you mentioned, I haven't seen that, or I haven't seen that. It is a hard watch, but if you're going to continue doing it, it's quite important to know where your food's actually coming from. And if you think, actually, I don't want to watch it, well, why is it good enough for your stomach if you don't want to watch it then? So, you come across as quite well informed.
I will do that, Mark. I've got a lot of respect for people like yourself. I try my best in many different ways, not so much with food, but I try and make human beings smile.
Of course.
And I try and be
good person.
Well, I do a lot for say for the gorillas. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just me, you know. But we live in a very difficult world, and I think the information highway sometimes could be a bit better.
And my point is that if we live in this difficult world, well, one of the easiest things we can do to make it a lot better is to save the lives of all these animals and to save the suffering of all these animals. Because the only way the number goes down, because it's never going to be an overnight thing, so the only way that these numbers start reducing to get to zero is by people boycotting those industries. And so all what I'm asking of anybody I speak to is just have a think, you know, when you go to the supermarket, it's dead easy just to try that alternative. And it's not going to be the same, but it's going to be maybe a 10% difference in taste. And that 10% difference in taste has saved an animal's life.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree with that. Although I do like my cheese, I'll have to say that to you, Mark.
Cathedral City have just brought out a new vegan cheese. It's not the same.
No, but
try it because it's. I've had people that eat cheese say actually they can't taste the difference. You can, but it's minimal. The other vegan cheeses, I would agree, are pretty atrocious. There's one or two okay ones, but the Cathedral City one is very, very, very good. So just try it. Yeah, really good to talk to you. Have a think. Please do that research. There is an email on that website, so you can get hold of us through there as well. Hopefully, I might see you again. Okay, thank you very much. Take care. Bye bye.